Welcome to part 12 of my building the Black Pearl Golden Edition in 2026. I've decided in this segment I'm going to need to go through the ship, just point out some things that I've done instead of going step by step. I'm going to start at the front of the ship and just mention a few things. For example, the bowsprit, I believe. This needs to be tapered down. It does tell you the dimensions that you need to go from. I switched mine out. This is oak instead of whatever they supplied. This piece does not get much instructions. It has, I think, 3 parts, and there's a little bitty part that I have wired in that looks a lot like the tip of that with some engraving in it. It came off the center part. I just don't know if that should be left off. So this hinges. I do know that this is a support for the anchors and it will eventually jut out something like that. When you're dealing with masts, wherever these hook, that should not be round. You have to flatten it off. So it has to flatten off. But up here, when it goes through this, it needs to be round. It's just right there. So you may have to square the 2 sides. That's what I did. This is squared, and then just slowly work it out so you have just enough space to get this piece to slide on. And I did pre-make these and then put them on. I also ran, you can see there's a wire here. I don't know if you can see. I don't know if I can. Okay, I can still. You do not want to cement these in. You want them to move freely while you're putting it together. So I put one of these wires through it just to give it some extra stability. On each one of these layers, you're going to have the same thing when you get up to these connectors. This little contraption here, not really a crow's nest, but similar to a crow's nest. This down here could be referred to as a crow's nest. You need to flatten the dowel rods all the way up to the very tip top one. I'm not real happy on how light of color this is, so I will probably bring some paint and just lightly brush something, some dirt, something to make it look dirty. It's just too white, too clean. I probably should have picked a different color. I drilled a hole through my main mast as far as I could get it, and you can see I have some wires going up. I'm going to put one lantern up here on this crow's nest eventually. What I will do is I will paint those all black and tie them so they're held in close so you won't see them too much. I'll put them on the back side. I had mentioned earlier that the dead eyes should look like a face looking at you. That is only on the lower layer. There's going to be another dead eye up here, and it will be just the opposite. So I'm sorry if that was confusing, but when I do the dead eyes, when I do that rope work, you'll see what I mean. I'll talk a little bit about the appointments. These were all brass. All this was brass. I plated it in 24 karat gold. This is all gold leafed, so it's very, very thin gold, but it does give the look that I wanted it to have. As promised, I am not going to put my lanterns on till the very end because I know for a fact I will break them off. If you're interested in seeing, here's the angel for the front of the ship in the 24 karat gold. And these are the parts that will go on the rear of the ship between the rear lanterns. I took the ship out of its holder so I could show you the back. Here's the little statuettes, piece that I made and just put on for the fun of it. I did gold leaf these 2 outside panels. That was a little tricky, to be honest with you, but I did get it done. One item on the ship that I'm not completely happy with is the captain's wheel. I just think that should have been better and a little bigger, but I will leave it for now. I am considering making my own, using my laser to cut out a better looking ship's wheel. I'm getting ready to to pre-make the yard arms. And this is an example where it doesn't really show that you need to flatten some spaces, but you do. This will need to be tapered on each end, but there are flat spots in there. And this little horseshoe thing right there, that's normally a wooden piece and some beads. I don't think the ship came with the beads, but I will do that later in the construction if you're interested. Here's an example at the bottom of the page marked R9. Although I can't find R8 on the main drawing, R8 does show where the flat spots on the yard arms. It also shows on this drawing where the masts come up and how they're squared off. It shows a little piece right in there, but I did not use those, but that would explain how you could make it tighter. So something to look into. This area on the blueprints isn't very clear. I apologize for my dirty fingernail, but I've been working in stain. Anyway, these parts F8, 28, 11, and 14, that really does not show what it is in reality very well. But here is what you're making, and it's this platform and the crow's nest. So there's the crow's nest. Put those together, and I used this sketch to determine how that rests under the crow's nest because the slants are just the same. However, this drawing is not part of the instructions. It's in a book, which I would highly recommend. Rigging Period Model Ships by Lennart Peterson. And many, many years ago, he took the time to produce this book, and it's all drawings. Very valuable because I turned to this page. It showed me just exactly what I wanted to see. This R5 is another example of a yard arm where it is flattened, and you can see these little spacer things here. Now this doesn't show the beads, but it does show a wooden piece, but I'm not seeing where that piece is identified. I have seen it on the wood parts just by the shape of it. It's kind of pear-shaped and has a hole in it. It might have two holes. So something to be aware of. This is where you have to look into it more, maybe buy yourself a book that has some better pictures. I still enjoy this build. I still think it's a good for a beginner. It's just you have to realize that a little experience can go a long way. And some of these things, in the past I've left this out. I just took and drilled a hole through and put one of those little eye bolts, I call them, and put it through there just to hold it in place so it would still rock back and forth if I wanted it to. This ship, I'm going to try and do it a little different. We will see how it goes. There's very little information in the instructions on this part here. There's two of them. It's called a cat head. On the end of these, sometimes there are a sculpture of a cat's head or a lion's head. I may mess with that. I may not. It's pretty tiny on this ship. They are used. Now, these have not been secured yet, and I may not use them at all. I may make my own. But they are to hoist up the anchors and hold them when they're not deployed. And it has an angular piece here, you can see. I put this wire through here because there's an insert. There are three pieces when you make it, and the center part at the very tip, there's an insert that maybe is to be removed. Maybe not, I haven't figured it out yet, but I think it's supposed to be removed, but I didn't want to lose it. That's why I wired that together. I may make these on my laser because I can make it out of a single solid piece of wood. I think that would look better. I'm in the process of making my own cat heads, and I'll show you a finished one. There's my finished one, and these openings here are more accurate than what came with the ship. Mine's going to look much better once it's stained. And I also made it just a little bit larger. Here's another example of using masking tape. Sticky side up, these two pieces are holding it down. This is the lifeboat. I just stuck it on there, and then I could put those ribs in place. They just barely sit there. As you can see, that one's moving quite a bit. Now I'm just going to let that dry, and then this top piece hopefully will rest right on top of them, but I'm not even going to touch it until it dries. You do have to be gentle with the lifeboat. I ended up sanding this back part down a little bit, sanding the nose there, and what I plan on doing is cementing the front and the back, and then once they're stable, then I can kind of maneuver the top rail down on those supports. So I think that's going to work. Then I can start doing the planking on the lifeboat. Similar to the full-size ship, I put some balsa wood in there. That'll give me a nice surface when I curve, something more to glue to. And just like on a regular ship, you need to file off those edges so that these wooden planks can curve around better. Didn't have any major issues. Everything went together pretty well. I don't see in the instructions, unless I'm missing it, what specific part you use for planking, so I'm just going to use the planks that came with the ship itself. I've finished the planking on this little lifeboat, and it's got some little cracks and crevices, and I was going to, splinter some more and fill in, but I wanted to try something I recently bought. It's Gork's Goodfilla, and it's supposedly going to be a black wood putty. And the reason I wanted to get powder is I can use just a little bit and it won't go bad on me, because I've had wood filler that is the paste that goes bad. So I can tell already it's going to be black. I've been working on the cannons, and in hindsight I would have done something different. Originally I had drilled, before the planks were on, holes that then I could just push the eye bolts into the sidewall. And I did do that on all of them because I'd already done it. Looking at some different drawings that I had seen, this would be much easier. So I've only done one this way. The ropes go from the cannon to this little board that has the eye bolts in it. So that is the left side. That's the right side. Put it in place and then just glue that against the sidewall. That way you could put the cannons together separate from the ship. Although I did, except for the eye bolts, but they were hard to get pushed in. Whereas I think just gluing this in place will work much better. To help get these ropes to lay down in kind of a natural look, I take a heat gun, and now this has adjustable temperature, so I can adjust the heat level. I can warm it up, push it down where I want it, and then it'll pretty much stay there. So you can see how those are now kind of laying like they would lay on the deck of the ship. Now some of them over here, was a little tighter, a little shorter. And this side closest to me, I already did. I just thought I would show how that can work. I haven't done these. These were a little snug ropes, so I don't have as much room to play with.